Hello everybody, Jose Rodriguez here. I was recently asked this question, whether I thought that the older printers, say from 10 years ago, can actually compete with today's technology. And that got me thinking. Well, I have a photograph outside my door here that was done on an Epson Stylus Photo 2000. And that was, I believe, the first pigment printer that Epson produced, because everything else that they had produced to that point was dye ink based. And the results at that time left a lot to be desired. Okay. The gloss was horrible. So anything that wasn't matte was printing with horrific gloss differential and bronzing problems. Now, they had inksets that were only about 7 colors. So instead of today's, like some of the Canon printers, 12 color technology, back then they just did not have the ability to produce very wide gamut prints. So any kind of print that you did with these early printers did not give you that complete coverage of color from your original image. And of course, the original images were not that great to begin with, because as camera quality evolved, printer quality followed. So trying to keep up with the wider and wider color fidelity of these images. So specifically, I want to talk about because this is what they asked, the Epson R800, Epson R1800, and later on the R1900, and now the R2000, and the latest, which is the P400. These printers solved, or nearly solved, that problem with gloss differential by introducing the first time gloss optimizer. Now the R800, still, even with the gloss optimizer, did not solve that problem. You could still see a degree of gloss differential and bronzing. It wasn't until the 1900 when gloss optimizer was basically, I'll use a pun word, optimized to the point where it applied such a nice even coating. And also remember that inks were not micro encapsulated. The original pigment inks were just pigment particles in suspension. So microscopically, the surfaces that they laid down were like sandpaper. Okay, so sandpaper does not reflect any light, any reflections. It is dull because it refracts light, it diffuses light rather than reflect it. And so by applying this gloss optimizer, those little crevices that cause that roughness were more uniform or flatter, or more even, and thus more glossy to the look as you were looking at your print. So later on, after the R800 and the R1800 was discontinued, in came the 1900, and that practically 98% solved that problem. And then the microencapsulation of these pigments was such that inks were now very, very glossy to begin with, without having to resort to any of this gloss optimizer. Well, now came the 3800 series, 3880 series. Vivid magenta was introduced into the mix. That improved the gamut of bright orange colors, bright reds, and also very deep lavenders, blues, and deep magentas. So that was a huge improvement from prior printers that did not have that vivid magenta. And so again, what does that mean? That now you're able to reproduce colors you were not able to reproduce in the past. So yes, there is a huge difference between an old 12, 15-year-old printer compared to today's technology. Now you have the Sure Color P series, 800, 600, 400, and then higher, 2000, 4000, 5000. And I don't know how high they go. I think there's even a 20,000. And those printers are just able to produce incredible print fidelity and color reproduction. So I don't know how much further this is going to go. I don't know what improvements are down the road. I think it's going to be more feature type improvements and not necessarily improvements on the inkjet. We have reached the point of diminishing returns where a lot of effort has to be put forth before you gain a little bit of quality. I think we are there as far as quality. I think the future is going to bring features into the printers, better quality built printers, printers that may last longer, the ability for user replaceable parts such as the waste ink cartridges in some of the higher end printers, and so on. When it comes to Canon, oh my gosh, you have the great variety of awesome printers, the Pro 1, the Pro 1000, the Pro 2000 is incredible as well, and higher. Those printers, again, are reaching levels of quality that I don't think are going to be improved upon too much, because again, it's amazing when you compare that to even a Epson stylus photo 2200. The difference is like night and day. You just cannot believe the difference between a print from that printer and a print from today's modern printers. Yes, so that is it. I think I covered a little bit about that. I am not a super expert on some of the older printers, but I can tell you what today's printers are producing. And indeed, it is a huge improvement over previous units. Now, if you're considering buying something used from that era, please don't consider that, because at that point, those printers are going to be either not able to be made to flow ink because of blockages, because they've been sitting probably for years unused. So forget about doing that. Forget about considering that. Consider starting from the best, and that is where we are now. Printers like the P800, the P600 for your smaller printers. If you want something with gloss optimizer, the P400 from Epson. If you go to the Canon line, you have the Pro 1, the Pro 10, the Pro 100 is still very popular. Although all of those printers, I think, are being discontinued, or if not already done so. The Pro 1000 is a killer printer, and one that if you are a serious photographer and serious about your printing, you should consider obtaining. And that's what's coming into this room next. So thank you once again. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. And until the next time, happy printing, everybody, and bye-bye.